Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 17th of June 2026 Council meeting. I'm Mayor Kate Kendall and thank you for joining us tonight. As per the governance rules, those addressing Council are to be courteous and respectful to Councillors, Council staff and any other members of the public gallery. And if a member of public is disrupting the orderly conduct of a meeting as Mayor, I may seek their removal from the meeting. Macedon Ranges Shire Council acknowledges the Dja Dja Wurrung, Tongarong and Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung's people as the traditional owners and custodians of this land and waterways. Council recognises their living culture and ongoing connection to country and pays respect to their elders past, present and emerging. Council also acknowledges local Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander residents of Macedon Ranges for their ongoing contribution to the diverse culture of our community. This meeting is our first hybrid meeting, actually, and it's being recorded and streamed live on the internet in accordance with Council's live streaming and publishing of Council's meeting policy, which can be viewed on Council's website. It will be available on Council's website within 48 hours. So thank you, and please bear with us as we navigate this new hybrid process. CEO, do we have any apologies this evening?
Good evening. There are no apologies this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. We'll now move to Section 5, Conflicts of Interest. And do any councillors have a conflict of interest on any matter of the agenda tonight? No? Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to Section 6, Petitions. Governance, have we received any petitions for tonight's meeting?
No petitions, Mayor Kendall.
Thank you, Governance. We'll now go to Section 7, Deputations and Presentations to Council, and we have not received any public questions tonight, so we'll move to Section 8, the Adoption of Minutes. And there is an officer recommendation on page 4. Councillor Guthrie.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. Happy to move the recommendation that Council confirms the minutes of the scheduled Council meeting of the Macedon Ranges Shire Council held on 27 May 2026 as circulated.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
I'm happy to second that motion, Mayor Kendall.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. We'll now move on to Section 9, the Mayor's Report. And I'll just take a moment to share some highlights from this shorter month, this period, because it's been 3 weeks since the last Council meeting, but it's still been a busy one. So one of the highlights was attending the Youth Council swearing-in ceremony. Congratulations to the 9 young people selected as youth councillors, and it was wonderful to celebrate this achievement with their friends and families in this chamber. And it's an important opportunity for young people to get involved in local government, and we look forward to seeing their ideas, energy and perspectives they bring over the coming year or so. I'd like to thank everyone who attended our councillor listening post in Clarkefield. Thank you to all of the community for their feedback on that, and community participation is a really fantastic part of council, and we've also hosted a couple of listening posts as well since. This month also gave us the opportunity to celebrate several outstanding members of our community who were recognised in the King's Birthday Honours, and we'll highlight those incredible individuals later in item CX1. I was also invited to attend the Community Bank Gisborne District's Community Investment Evening. Over the past 18 months, they've invested more than 4 million, 18 years, sorry, they've invested more than 4 million into local communities, and that's sporting clubs, schools, community groups and grassroots initiatives, and it's amazing to see this important work that they're doing. The Meet the Mayor sessions have been really, continue to be a really valuable way to connect with the community. And since February, I've hosted now more than 32 meetings. So it's just been incredible to have those as well with normal conversations with community groups, local businesses and residents across the Shire. And the feedback's been really positive and reinforces the importance of listening and being accessible. And during the month, councillors and I also attended community information sessions related to the Victorian Goldfields World Heritage Bid and the Department of Defence's proposed divestment of the Kyneton drill hall. Both are important matters that will help shape the future of our region, and it was encouraging to see strong community interest and participation. I'd also like to just acknowledge councillors who participated in events for the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day on Monday. These events play an important role in raising awareness and promoting respect, dignity and inclusion for older members of our community. Thank you, councillors. I'll now be looking for a motion, and there's a recommendation on page 5. Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move the officer recommendation on page 5. The council receives and notes the Mayor's report.
Thank you, Councillor Scanlon. Councillor Joseph.
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. We'll now move on to section 10, record of meetings of councillors and council staff. And there is a recommendation on page 8 of the agenda, and I'll be looking for a motion. Councillor Guthrie.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. The recommendation is that council receives and notes the record of meetings of councillors and council staff as outlined in this report.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Councillor Pearce.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried, and we'll now move on to section 11 of the agenda, Planning Environments Reports. And the first item in this section is PE1 Amendment C164 Macro Clarkefield Township Development. And there is an officer recommendation on page 13 of the agenda, and I'll be looking for a motion. Councillor Joseph.
Yes, I'm happy to put motion on page 13 that the council notes preliminary submission attachment 1 made to Engage Victoria regarding amendment C164 Macro Clarkefield Township Development and acknowledges a more detailed council submission will be presented to the 22 July 2026 council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. It was Councillor Anderson. To second the motion.
Thank you. I'm happy to second the motion as put by Councillor Joseph.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Would anyone like to speak to the resolution? Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, thank you to the Macedon Range Shire staff for putting this together in such a, I guess it's putting the response together in record time. And that's a bit of a theme that I've got running here with the race is still on. No time to investigate the strategic merit, no time to look at baseline information on current housing stock, no time to provide an understanding of the limitations of current services and infrastructure, no time to gain understanding the rural streetscapes and the people who live in the regions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scanlon. Councillor Joseph.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo the comments of Councillor Scanlon and thank the staff for a wonderful job in putting together a very good submission, very short time when there was a huge amount of information to go through. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Bonanno.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, echo the thanks for the officers for the preliminary submission work and look forward to the subsequent more detailed report to come next month. Councillors, here we go again, I guess. It's another, what feels like Amos Road development, only supersised. 2,500 homes compared to 1,300 for Amos Road, and all to meet some figure plucked from the sky mandated to us by Spring Street. We have both Gisborne and Romsey structure plans still sitting on the Minister's desk after 2 years. Those requests to the Minister for Planning is to amend the Statement of Planning Policy, but specifically to insert protected settlement boundaries, among other things. And one must wonder why the delay. So I too also want to acknowledge the community members that came out to a listening post in Clarkefield, shared their views with us. One point that really struck me, it was the willingness, I guess, to accept development for Clarkefield, appropriate development. In fact, most of the community members were okay with the original design, as mentioned on the day. But alas, this fast tracking of developments and the sidelining of councils and their constituents becoming the new norm. The original plan's been changed, and now the Macedon Range community have to deal with a completely different beast for Clarkefield. So to this, I say, bring on November. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonanno. Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Borthwick.
Thanks, Mayor Kendall.
I certainly won't re-prosecute what's already been discussed. And I think from a councillor perspective, this is our southeastern gateway to the Shire, and this presents a really extraordinary opportunity for us to get this right. And in its current form, I don't think that the plan has got it right. What's in front of us isn't just a growth proposal, it's a significant transfer of long-term risk onto council and ultimately the ratepayer. We're being asked to carry the long-term burden of infrastructure, services and community expectations without having clear decision-making authority over how that development unfolds. There's no real practical concerns that have been resolved here around transport. Financially, we don't have a clear picture. Environmentally, I'm not convinced that we're seeing offsets with complete assessments. And finally, the process itself. 20 business days for us to review something of this scale and complexity without with our extension request refused. That doesn't feel appropriate or fair. So for me, this isn't a question of being against growth. It's about making sure we get it right. I'm very grateful to the officers for putting forward the submission in such a short period of time. I'm incredibly grateful for the community that dug deep and also put forward submissions in a really short period of time. And I'm really looking forward to a more detailed submission in July, by which stage I think it's fair to say there's a significant amount of work to be done.
Thank you, Councillor Borthwick. Would anyone else like to speak? No? Okay, thank you. We'll keep moving to PE2, Local Law, Clause 38 Amendment, Consultation. And I'll be looking for a motion, and there's an officer recommendation on page 19. Councillor Guthrie.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. The recommendation is that Council 1 endorses the release of proposed Community Local Law 2023 Amendment Clause 38H to inform the community of the intention to delete Clause 38H from the Community Local Law, which states that an owner or occupier of land may allow fireworks or pyrotechnic displays to be conducted on that land, provided that the fireworks or pyrotechnics H are not used during the koala breeding season, September to April. 2. Notes that Council will receive a future report on the proposed endorsement of the change to delete Community Local Law Clause 38H, including a summary of any feedback received from the community.
Councillor Joseph.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Would anyone like to speak to the resolution? Councillor Guthrie.
Yeah, very briefly, Mayor. We rewrote the local law back in 2023, and after we put it out for public consultation, there was concern expressed about the koala breeding season, and we included Clause H. But where that's been thrown into doubt is it was not publicly notified. So what we're saying now is to the community, we want your feedback on this, and then we'll see what happens to it. But once we've got that public feedback, that clause hopefully will be deleted.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. So the officers have done a lot of work behind the scenes on this one, and this came to our attention through some affected businesses and landowners. And the consultation for the local law was a good consultation, and we did go out with options for fireworks, and we listened and provided good grounding, except for this one particular clause, which hadn't been tested with the community. We got some legal advice at the time, and we thought we were doing the right thing, but have subsequently realised if it hasn't really been tested with the community, it isn't something that should go in there. And thus the plan to delete that from the local law, and this is the requirement of the Act for doing local laws, is that we let people know, get them to provide us with what their feedback is, but our decision is we think it's in the best interest of transparency and the correct measures that you take to do a local local law to exclude this one particular clause that did not have the opportunity to be tested with the community. So we don't always get everything right, but we're happy when people bring things to our attention that we look into them, and we ensure that we can rectify any errors that we've done in the past. So I really want to congratulate the staff for working on this one, working with the business owners that brought it to us our attention, and we look forward to receiving your feedback, having a future report where we can clarify and delete this clause from the local law to mean that there won't be any confusion anymore.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Would anyone else like to speak? I might say a few words, please, Governance. Thank you. I'm echo what's already been said this evening, and I believe that Macedon Range Shire Council might have been the only council in Victoria that had this specific clause about koala breeding. And as Councillor Anderson said, it really kind of had shut down small firework businesses from hosting fireworks during peak wedding seasons, because it was September through to April, which means pretty much they could not operate at all. And over the past year, this is something that I've just had a steady incoming stream of communication from these businesses that were really concerned about this clause, and just comments about inconsistency across the Shire. So there might have been fireworks at the Kyneton Ag Show, but then a wedding couldn't be held in Lancefield with fireworks. So I think it's fantastic that we're taking action and having greater clarity for the community going forward. So thank you. Great. Thanks. We're now going to go on to the next item in this section, which is PE3, response to petition regarding dog off-lead areas along Campaspe River Walk, Kyneton. And councillors, I'll be looking for a motion, and there's an officer recommendation on page 22. Councillor Pearce.
Thank you. I'll move the officer recommendation on page 22.
Thank you. Welcome to read that out.
Great.
Yeah.
The council, 1, notes this report as a response to the petition. 2, notes that the petition will form part of the wider feedback received in relation to the review of the dog and cat order. And 3, responds to the head petitioner with the outcome of the petition.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Councillor Anderson.
Yes, I'm happy to second the motion as read out by Councillor Pearce. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Would anyone like to speak to the resolution? Councillor Pearce.
Yes, just to thank the members for the petition. We've had a lot of feedback with the dog and cat orders, but what's very positive is always when community gather together, they proactively approach, discuss, and come with some very concrete requests. And then we've also followed up with some requests to meet councillors, so that then extends and was provided with more information. So we're going to hear from everybody, of course, because we do have lots of feedback on this. It's very passionate animals and dogs and cats and things. They're very important to members in the community. So we'll have a big look at everything, but just the point that it has been very informative discussions, and it's very positive to have this information that council officers come back to us on it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Would anyone else like to speak? I might say some words in, please, Governance. Thank you. So thank you to the community group for your advocacy on this. And I was reflecting a little bit on this timeline because it has been a long advocacy journey now. And I think it was late August where I met on site at the Rotunda, and there was probably about 40 or 50 people there at that time. And then I did a resident meeting on site in September. We heard from the advocacy group in May at Kyneton Town Hall, and then we've also headed on site twice since then, including recently with staff to discuss some of the solutions and tweaks we could make. So really been involved in seeing how this will progress. And I think there really has been an overwhelming sentiment to keep the Campaspe River Walk the way that it is. So thank you for that being clear from the community. And there's some potential other, options in here and ideas. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this matter resolved at an upcoming council meeting. So thank you. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? I now might give the gallery a moment if they'd like to go and enjoy their evenings, or We'll just take a moment. Yes. Thank you. Have a lovely evening. See you later. Great. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to the next item in this section, which is PE4, Environment and Community Climate Action Grant Recipients 2026. And councillors, I'll be looking for, we're just going to wait to, will the screen come back on over here?
Just working with IT to do that.
Okay.
The live stream is still working.
Okay, thank you. Just for the live streams, I'm just waiting to see a second screen that will allow me to see things more clearly. But councillors, I will still proceed and I'll be looking for a motion. And Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. I have an alternative to the officer recommendation, and it has been circulated to councillors, and I'll read that out. And the motion I wish to put is that Council 1 notes the panel assessment results for funding applications under the 25-26 Environment Group Support Grants and the Community Climate Action Grants. 2, notifies and congratulates all successful grant recipients. And 3, notes that the unspent $16,000 from the Environment Group Support Grants and the $5,188.23 from the Community Climate Action Grants, I've just got to find mine, totalling $16,000 respectively, full total surplus of $21,118.23, be carried over to the 26-27 operational budget to be used to support the Maribyrnong River and Waterway Association 26-27 budget submission, $15,000. Support Council Climate Action Works, $5,188.23, and support on-ground conservation works in council-managed conservation reserves, waterways and roadsides, focusing on pests and weeds, $1,000. And we'll be looking for a seconder. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Borthwick.
Yeah, happy to second the motion as circulated.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Thank you. Seeing there is opposition, we'll move to debate. And Councillor Anderson, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. So I think everyone always gets excited when we can give out grant money to our community, and on this occasion we can celebrate those groups as well. So I don't want to take anything away from the first part of the motion, which is the same as the officer recommendation. But there is some surplus funds, and there may be various reasons for that. We do know there's a lot of fatigue in our community and our volunteer groups, and that does take, even though we try and make the process simple, it takes a lot of process to put in applications. We also did remove weed and pest funding from the general funding, so that could have meant that some groups didn't apply for as much as they used to because that was taken out of it. We did have a budget submission from this Maribyrnong River and Waterways Association group, and they are working with some of the other council groups along the catchment river, but haven't yet had any financial input from our council. And I think if we've put money aside for the year for these environmental purposes, it is really good if we can continue to make them be for environmental purposes. And so the split of the funding there goes along with the nature of the types of funding grants that we were putting the money out for. If it just goes to general revenue, then that opportunity to do more environmental work, which we know many of our community are very supportive of, we just lose it to other projects that we may not even find out about. So this is something that the community has well and truly supporting our environment. It's part of our council plan. We've just recently endorsed our biodiversity strategy, and it certainly talks about working with the community and empowering them. And with our waterways, we have an environment strategy that has a whole section dedicated to water. So I think it's really important that we do analyse, and we do this in mid-year budget reviews as well, when sometimes one project's gone under or over. We look at sort of similar projects. If a bridge has gone under, we might fund another bridge to a little bit of a top-up. So it's really just demonstrating that we really care for the environment, that it's important that we do these environmental works, and that we do on this occasion, which is pretty rare actually, that we have a bit of surplus funds, that we can use these surplus funds for the reason that they were originally intended for, which is these particular environmental topics. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Borthwick, would you like to reserve or speak now?
I'll reserve, thanks.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak in opposition of the motion? Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mayor. I am opposing this alternative motion because I am probably more in favour of the initial officer recommended motion that we had, where the funds that are a surplus in this instance be rolled over into consolidated revenue. I think it's just simply a principled view that it can become quite messy when there are surplus funds found here and there from time to time, and that can be reallocated for different purposes. And whilst I understand Councillor Anderson's view that these are similar types of projects, they aren't projects that have gone through the process of being assessed under this grant process. So I'm not aware of their merits and how they are similar to the type of project that would be awarded funds from this grant process. But I think what we shouldn't be doing is setting a precedent that surplus funds can be reallocated by a decision of the council ad hoc, or even by a decision of the staff. And I think it would be actually a good thing for this council to recognise that there are surpluses found here and there, and that on many other projects those surpluses could be perhaps pooled and put towards other initiatives in subsequent budgets, perhaps, such as paying down debt is just one example of something that I might like to see the council do. And so I will be opposing the motion just simply because I am more in favour of consolidating this revenue than to reallocating it.
Great, thank you, Councillor Young. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Matt. I think it's interesting that the Deep Creek and Jacksons Creek form the confluence of the Maribyrnong River just near the Tullamarine Airport. So you can stand on that confluence and see which part of the Shire has got the best water coming down it. So as far as the money going off to the Maribyrnong River Catchment Association, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good value for money in my mind. It casts a net over the wider view of our catchment. On an ecological and logical viewpoint, you would expect the money to be spent in the upper part of the two catchments, bearing in mind that some of our water falls to the north, goes to the Loddon Campaspe catchment, and some goes down the Werribee. So there's people that don't benefit from the money, but I think it's whatever it is, 15 or 16 grand, it's pretty good value for money, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scanlon. Would anyone like to speak in opposition to the motion? Councillor Bonanno.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not so much opposition. I understand that the funds are still within that whole environmental sort of grouping, so I don't have an issue with that. I think my issue really is around the splitting, so the three points, and I would like to propose or move an amendment if possible, because we do hear from community members around pests, in particular rabbits and so forth. So, yeah, would like to move an amendment. I think I've already spoken, so I'm not sure if that's possible, but I'll wait for governance or the Mayor.
Any councillor can move an amendment, including those who've spoken to the motion.
Say again, sorry.
Yes, so Councillor Bonanno, you're welcome to suggest your amendment, and then I'll see if it's able to be accepted and offered to the mover.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Well, my amendment is to strike out point 3.2 and include the $5,188.23 to the pests and weeds point.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd seek a seconder, I guess.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Young.
I'll second it.
Thank you. So thank you, Councillor. I'm going to accept the amendment because I believe it's compliant with the governance rules. And now I'm going to offer the amendment to the mover of the substantive motion. So Councillor Anderson, do you accept this amendment?
Yes, I'm actually happy to accept that.
Okay, Councillor. And now, as Councillor Borthwick, is this... Sorry, I'm being pointed. No, I was going to Councillor Borthwick. So please, we can keep the gestures. Councillor Borthwick, do you accept the amendment?
Yeah, I'm happy to accept the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Can I just get some clarity on the amendment again? Just what the point, so the point, could Councillor...
Councillor Pearce, I'm happy to clarify. So it was number 3.2, supports council climate action work. So that would be removed, and the 5,188.23 would go into weed and pest control, bringing that to 6,188.23 cents.
Yes.
So that is now what has become the... Councillor Joseph.
Just further clarification, if I may. Is that council pest and weed control?
Yes, that is correct. Okay, thank you. So this is the motion now that we will be debating, and Councillor Bonanno, I think you don't get to speak anymore. So
at this point, we continue with debate as per the previous motion. So we are already in the middle of debate. The new substantive motion is the amendment that was moved by Councillor Bonanno, and we continue with all those who have previously spoken cannot speak again to the motion in debate.
And so just to clarify, can Councillor Bonanno complete his minutes or not anymore?
He has not used all his allocated time, so I would advise he can continue and finish his allocated time.
Thank you. Councillor Bonanno, would you like to continue with your time, or...?
No, I just want to thank Councillor Anderson and Councillor Borthwick for accepting the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Great. Would anyone like to speak in opposition to the motion? Councillor Pearce.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely agree that this is very important, the environmental works, and I absolutely very happy that the we've looked and reviewed, the staff have looked and reviewed how we're going to do these environmental and community grants. My main concern was with the 15,000 for the Maribyrnong River and Waterways Association, who do terrific work, and they were here and have informed us and presented to us. They did make a budget submission, and we had discussions around that, and did not allocate any budget to that in the budget, in the draft budget. I also feel that when I looked at the submissions, the submission of that budget bid, what it was to be used for, there was a couple of points there that I had some questions about.
Sorry, I've just noticed the time is not on, Councillor Pearce, so I'm just reminding governance if we could please put
Sorry, I wasn't even
You've had about a minute so far,
Okay,
so I'll allow 2 more minutes. Thank you.
And I actually looked and I saw that we had, in the environment, we had 30,000 allocated, and we had 14 groups, one of which is the Upper Maribyrnong catchment group, which is great. They all got 1,000. I'd actually love to see those groups getting more, because we're using 14. There's 14 groups there with 1,000 each, and then we're giving 15,000 to a group that hasn't applied for the grant and was unsuccessful in a budget bid. So I understand where everyone's coming from. I think the importance of the work, that is no doubt at all. I just believe that we had a few months ago when there was community grants excess over, and we didn't put that back into monthly community grants, and to another area came out, and I just feel that I think it's very important to the amended officer recommendation was that it goes back into, I probably had some other thoughts that would be great for this money to be used in an environmental context. But I just don't, it's the first point, the Maribyrnong River, I would love to support conservation works on council-managed conservation reserves. Pests and weeds, absolutely, but it's just the first stop point for the $15,000 that I have concerns about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? I might say some words.
Not specifically against. I'll say
sorry, Councillor Joseph. I put my hand up to speak, so I'll come to you next. So I'll just finish. I'll just speak. So thank you. Thank you. So for context, councillors have already discussed this funding proposal as part of our structured budget process for the 26-27 budget. We discussed it twice, including recently on the 26th of May, where we decided not to fund this proposal as part of the draft budget. So I view this motion now as a way to almost go outside of that fair and structured budget process and do not think these funds should be included. Proposing to fund one association, and it's headquartered in Niddrie, with the entire amount awarded to all of those local community groups in the Environment Group Support Grant combined, doesn't sit right with me. They all got 1,000, so I'm not sure why one group should receive 15,000. And I did look at how the expenses of this association are used, and 88% do go to employee costs. So I just think there could be more investment in our local community. And to outline the community what this proposal includes a quilting showcase, workshops from government policy workers, speculative waterway design concepts and council advocacy briefings. And other than legal and governance training, I don't believe we pay externals to come to brief us. So remember, this isn't about free money. Reserves can be used to pay off debt, as Councillor Young had said, or emergencies or future commitments. And every day across the Shire, I hear from people about requests for funding, things like hand dryers in Kyneton Library, a lone public bench in places like Lauriston, fair access change rooms, or even funding for our underfunded CFA. So I just question if this is the best and fairest use of funding right now. And our budget process said that we would love to support this group, but not in a non-financial role. So we spend a lot of money on funding associations already, and I personally think that we need to tighten up our ratepayer money on associations. Trust, fairness, integrity are really important to me, and I do not believe unallocated grant funds should become an informal mechanism for revisiting budget decisions outside the established budget process. And I especially don't think we should be making budget decisions on the fly. And I only received this motion with the inclusion to fund this today at 3 p.m. So I'm not sure if this is how our community wants us to operate. And I'm also concerned that this proposal is being considered after a briefing from a submitter when other budget submitters were not afforded the same opportunity. So I don't think it's good governance to say we can change our budget funding strategy 24 hours before the council meeting because a submitter came to briefing. And we had a similar discussion last year regarding the Riddles Creek master plan, and my position remains the same, that while I support worthwhile outcomes, I cannot support bypassing good governance processes to achieve them. So in summary, council already considered this budget request. All funding should be assessed consistently and fairly, and using available funds to revisit unsuccessful budget bids creates poor governance precedent. Thank you. Great. Councillor Joseph.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to say that I feel very conflicted by this because I certainly do support the environmental organisations for which the funding is suggested and for pest and weeds. But I also concur with Councillor Kendall, the Mayor, in relation to process. And I wonder why we always get to the situation where there is money left over and we haven't had a process to actually formally recommend an outcome that takes up all the funding. So I think we may need to look at an improvement in the process down the track so we're not put in this position. Having said that, I mean, if there's a majority of councillors who think it's a good idea, then that's possibly as good a process as any. But yeah, I'm still conflicted, as I said. So I have a few minutes to make up my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Borthwick.
Thanks, Mayor. I want to acknowledge the strong
environmental efforts of the many groups across the Shire, be that biolinks, waterways advocacy, tree planting, rehabilitation works, land care, visiting university students, climate festivals and much more. Funding opportunities like this translates in directly on the ground into outcomes and real community resilience. Further to Councillor Pearce's point that MERWA doesn't operate locally, MERWA operates across many of our localised groups. The Deep Creek Land Care Management, the Upper Deep Creek catchments, the biolinks, they all work and interconnect into the MERWA framework. So MERWA does the work that the volunteer groups are unable to do, and that is present a voice to a different level of government that we don't always see. So from that conduit from local community to other government levels, but also about keeping an entire catchment informed, is incredibly valuable work. Because these funds were allocated specifically for environment and climate action work, I think we need to be careful about treating any unspent and surplus funds in the usual sense. I see this as a really great opportunity to reinvest back into that work and add further support and greater resilience to the space of the environment. Returning it to consolidated revenue dilutes its purpose, whereas reinvesting it maximises the impact and value for our local community. So for me, this is about making sure those funds continue to deliver as intended. Locality-based and in long-term waterways, existing networks need to be strengthened. Additionally, while I do appreciate that we had the discussion around this being supported, I have a different viewpoint on the outcome of those discussions, and that was that it wasn't a flat-out no. My understanding was that it was a conversation and it was still on the table. So for that reason, I will be supporting Councillor Anderson's alternative motion, and I encourage others to do the same.
Thank you.
Sorry. The amended motion.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Otherwise, we will go back to Councillor Anderson for right of reply. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as has been stated by fellow councillors, this was originally a budget bid, and a couple of our new initiatives have come about with community group meetings that we've had in the last couple of weeks, where they've given us pleas for particular things that originally may not have been supported in the budget. So it is an ongoing conversation, and as per Councillor Borthwick's comments, there were some of us in the room when we had the discussions about this group and this project that were interested in funding it. It just wasn't something that went to the final budget. And you do this as a councillor, you sometimes compromise, you kind of go, well, you know, there's only so much money to go around and we can't fund absolutely everything. But here's an opportunity with funding that was put aside for the environment to work with the community on the environment that we've got the opportunity to use. We all know how much fatigue there is out there with our volunteers, so putting in bids for grants can be more difficult, but they're genuine mechanisms. The grants and the budget bids are a genuine mechanism for which the community can come to us and say, these are projects that we really want to have happen on the ground, and these projects definitely align with our council plan, our biodiversity strategy, our environment strategy. I certainly, like the Mayor, do believe in trust, fairness and integrity, and I feel this process is an open and honest process where we're going through the reasons of why this leftover money from allocated to environment will continue to be used for the environment. It is really important. We have had the discussions. It was a genuine budget bid. It's irrelevant whether they presented to us this week, last week or beforehand. The budget bid has been before us for quite some time. The group has been working on the ground. It's funded in other councils, but not in our council. And I think it's going to be a really great asset. Pest and weed, we always get community telling us about that. So more funding that we can put in there now that the motion's been amended, that's an excellent addition too. So I urge you to consider this money going back into environment mechanisms rather than consolidated revenue, where we will have no clue what the money ends up doing.
We're at time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, time. Great, thank you. I'm now going to call to a vote. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. 3, 4. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Well, the motion is carried. Okay, thank you. I'll now going to move to the next item. PE5 PLN 2025 404-24 Ashbourne Road, Woodend, Vic 3442. And there's amended officer recommendation that has been circulated to all councillors, and I'll be looking for a motion. Councillor Guthrie.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. I'd like to move the amended officer recommendation. And what I intend to do is read what's been added to it. So, from the original recommendation under point 2, we've added a B. The proposal does not acceptably achieve the neighbourhood street network objective by failing to provide safe and easy movement through the local neighbourhood due to the reliance on unsealed roads. Then the former B is relabelled as C and a new point D is added. The proposal does not acceptably achieve the site management objectives with unreasonable impacts arising from the scale and nature of the construction works required to facilitate the subdivision, including construction access routes, dust management, road condition monitoring and protection of residential amenity associated with construction traffic. And under point 5, we've added an extra point B, which is the layout of roads, having regard to the function and relationship to the existing roads, including local unsealed roads. And then we've relabelled B to C, C to D, and D to E. The other thing is I'd like to delete part B. So the officer recommendation, but delete as printed, but deleting part B.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Is there a seconder?
Yes.
It's Councillor Pearce.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Pearce, and thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Turn your mics off, please. Is there any opposition? Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. We could just thank you, no worries. Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Would anyone like to speak to the resolution? Councillor Guthrie.
Yes, going right back, I was on council when we looked at a subdivision at the other end of Noonan Grove, and we put some pretty stringent conditions on it. Unfortunately, it went to VCAT, and VCAT deleted what we wanted to do to Noonan Grove, and the developer only had to make part of it. And that's been an issue ongoing since then, and that was back in 2013, VCAT decided that. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted Part B deleted, because I think we should be very, very stringent on it this time, and we don't want VCAT coming back with a situation where we're going to put a lot more traffic on at Noonan Grove. And unfortunately, that's the potential here, that we could be putting a lot more traffic on that unsealed 300 metres of Noonan Grove. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted those extra points put in, and hopefully VCAT will take notice of us this time.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. Although I probably would have liked to have seen more about the statement of planning policy in there, I know that the staff's advice was that potentially VCAT doesn't have to follow that, so that's not in their recommendation. But I totally agree with Councillor Guthrie that I inherited the Noonan Grove decision when I first came on council, and there was some frustration about the negotiated outcome, even though council had opposed the development. I'd like to acknowledge those residents of the area that have been in continual contact with our staff, and thank our staff for talking to them and working through what the issues are. And there have been a lot of issues with dust and bogginess on Noonan Grove. The concern being that if traffic is going to use Noonan Grove during the development, that there could be problems there. And there's a lot of issues with how is that intersection going to work, which is addressed in the officer's report. The engineering of that intersection, the water management, the drainage, the environmental significance of our beautiful trees there that are a threatened species. So it is a site that could potentially have some development in some areas that are less sensitive with appropriate design. But as it is, it has significant drawbacks of the design, the road layout, the drainage, the impact on the waterways. And so I think it is important that we do have a strong front and added in those points for the VCAT and the community to go to see what we can argue and to let the applicant know that we've got all those concerns. So thank you to the staff for putting everything together, and I think we put together a really good case as to why this particular subdivision layout is not appropriate for this particular site, and we just don't want to see further exacerbations of what's happening on Noonan Grove to those local residents at the moment. The situation is different from what it was when the original permit was issued, which already had an issue, but we've now got more traffic, more pedestrians. So there is the issue of the footpath and pedestrian safety and increased traffic that's already there from the newer development, and we have to take that in consideration. And I think it's a very important point for VCAT. Don't just look at the previous case, look at where we're at now. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? No. Okay, thank you. We'll keep moving. We're now going on to the final item of this section, which is PE6, Draft Statutory Planning Fee Waiver and Rebate Policy, and we'll be having an introduction from our Director P&E. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This report seeks Council's adoption of the Draft Statutory Planning Fee Waiver and Rebate Policy. The purpose of the policy is to provide a clear, transparent and consistent framework for considering requests to waive or reduce statutory planning fees in limited and appropriate circumstances. While planning fees play an important role in recovering the costs associated with administering the planning system, there are occasions where a fee waiver may be justified on the basis of financial hardship, community benefit, public interest outcomes, or in fact administrative considerations. Importantly, the policy establishes a clear criteria and decision-making principles to ensure that fee waiver requests are assessed fairly, consistently and with appropriate accountability. The adoption of this policy will provide greater certainty for applicants, support for good governance, and ensure Council has a structured approach when considering future fee waiver requests. As part of our overall quarterly reporting to Council, Councillors will receive a report on the number and outcomes of fee waiver and reduction requests, which captures all of our fee waivers. We recommend that Council adopts the draft policy that's before you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Peony. And while you were speaking, I did get a hand up online, but I just remind everyone that it will only be, I'll only call for a motion. So unless there's a point of clarification, please do not raise your hand before I call for
It was
motion.
a legacy hand, Mayor Kendall. Apologies for that.
Oh, no
legacy
worries.
hand.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Great, thank you. Now, Councillors, I will be looking for a motion and there's an officer recommendation on page 59. Councillor Borthwick.
Happy to move the officer recommendation as it reads on page 59.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bonanno.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Would anyone like to speak to the resolution? Okay, pause because that. Okay, thank you, councillors. We'll keep moving. We're going to go to item 12, section 12, Chief Executive Officer reports, and we've got one item in this section, CX1, King's Birthday Honour Recipients 2026, and there's an officer recommendation on page 72 of the agenda. And Councillor Guthrie.
Move it when I can.
Councillor Guthrie, there you go.
I haven't got to it yet.
Okay, great. Well,
I'm still trying to get down.
no worries. We're just going to page 72.
Yeah, the CEO's coming. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you, CEO.
The recommendation is that Council send a letter to the following award recipient in recognition of their 2026 King's Birthday Honours: Mrs. Patricia Kay, OAM, Ms. Pam Ahern, OAM, Mary Jane Welsh, APM.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Is there a seconder?
Thank you, Bernie.
Councillor Bonanno.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Would anyone like to speak to the resolution? Councillor Guthrie.
Yes, I'm very pleased to move this. I'm very big believer in recognising exceptional service to the community. In the case of Trish Kay, I've known her well before I was a councillor. I joined a motor club that she was a member of many years ago, more than I'd like to admit actually. And then in the time that I've been here, Trish has been 50 years on the ambulance auxiliary, and responsible for many things like setting up the market originally as a fundraiser for the ambulance and many other activities. So I'm really pleased to be able to move this motion recognising her and the other two very important local residents.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Would anyone else like to speak? No? Okay, thank you. We're going to go on to the next section, COR 1, Budget 2026-27, and we'll be having an introduction from our Acting Director of Corporate. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. For Council's consideration tonight is the Budget 2026-27, developed through an extensive and consultative process with both councillors and the community. Prepared in accordance with Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020, the budget forms a key part of Council's integrated strategic planning and reporting framework. It supports the delivery of the Council's plan, shaping the ranges, while maintaining Council's commitment to responsible financial management and long-term financial sustainability. The budget outlines Council's investment in essential services, community infrastructure and strategic priorities that contribute to the livability, wellbeing and resilience of our community. It also responds to the ongoing financial pressures facing local government, including increasing service delivery costs, growing community expectations and constrained revenue growth. The budget has been informed through 2 phases of community engagement. During late 2025, Council received 89 submissions seeking funding for projects and initiatives across the Shire. A second round of targeted consultation undertaken between April and May generated a further 85 submissions. Officers have carefully considered this feedback and have recommended a number of additional initiatives for inclusions, including further support for the Thriving Villages program, funding to support food bank program via our neighbourhood houses, and the commencement of the Tony Clark Reserve Master Plan. Key features of the proposed 2026-27 budget include a balanced and financially stable sustainable budget that supports the delivery of council services while responding to ongoing economic pressures, $70.918 million to be raised through general rates and service charges, with rates remaining within the Victorian Government's 2.75% rate cap, continued investment in essential services including roads, waste, recreation, community facilities, public health, environmental outcomes and cultural activities, and a capital works program of more than $16.2 million, delivering investment across roads, bridges, drainage, buildings and community infrastructure. Officers have reviewed all submissions received throughout the consultation process and have incorporated recommended changes into the proposed budget. Officers' responses to all submissions are included in the attachments, and all submitters will be responded to in accordance with the Council's community engagement policy. This budget represents a responsible and community-informed approach that balances investment in today's priorities with Council's long-term financial sustainability. I would like to thank councillors, the community and council officers for their contribution throughout the development of this budget. Officers now present an amended officer recommendation, which has been circulated to councillors this evening, correcting Appendix 1 of the draft budget 2026-27 document before councillors tonight.
Thank you, Acting Director of Corporate. And just to note, because we did have an item in PE4 which was successful that had a budget submission contained in that, we are going to now circulate an amended officer recommendation that rectifies the motion. So governance.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. Governance is just finalising that to circulate.
Okay, thank you. We'll just take a minute to circulate this to all councillors. Thank you. Thank you, livestream. We're just circulating the amended officer now.
Mayor Kendall, how will it be circulated? Will I be emailed a copy?
Can for the
Big tin
hybrid.
can, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Governance. Thank you. I'll just take one final moment for everyone to... We've got another... So, we're just... Okay, thank you. Councillors, does anyone have any points of clarification about the circulations that have come through? Councillor Joseph.
So we have a councillor amendment, but do we have two councillors putting forward?
That is correct. So we've got an amended officer recommendation and two proposed alternatives.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll wait a second, then I'll call for a motion. Thank you. Can all on the hybrid, councillor, have you received the big tin can file? Oh, not yet. Okay,
no, I can only find the previous amended officer recommendation,
okay,
so we've now got a new one.
Thank you. Okay, councillors. Thank you, Acting Director of Corporate, again for that introduction. Thank you for circulating all the amended budgets alternatives. And I'm now going to call for a motion. Oh, Councillor Young, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Please bear with me. I am looking to move an alternative motion that reads the same as the amended officer recommendation for point 1, and at the end of the table in point 1 begins with the words "and the following amendments," and from then includes all of the words circulated in my alternative motion from point 1, item 1, and in addition, in point 5, in point 9, includes the words from point 5 of the amended officer recommendation, followed by the words acknowledging that any future changes arising from subsequent council decisions will be communicated separately where applicable.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll just confirm, do we have a circulated copy of your alternative with the inclusion of the new budget? Has that been circulated?
Mayor, the circulated copy of my alternative neither includes the new provision just added, nor does it include the amended officer recommendation that was distributed prior to this meeting. And so I have accommodated for that in the motion that I have just moved.
Okay. Can you remind which point again, Councillor Young?
Yep. So the motion that I'm moving is the amended officer recommendation point 1, and following the table in point 1 includes all of the words, includes the words "and the following amendments," followed by all of the words in point 1, item 1 of my alternative motion, and for point 9 of my alternative motion, it is replaced with the words in point 5 of the amended officer recommendation, and includes the words at the end of that paragraph acknowledging that any future changes arising from subsequent council decisions will be communicated separately where applicable. And so, in effect, it is the alternative motion that I have had circulated with both changes to the officer recommended motion being in point 1 and in point 5.
Thank you, Councillor Young. I just wanted to take a moment with councillors and check if that is clear to all councillors present. And if it isn't clear, please let me know. I'm not looking for a seconder at this stage.
No,
okay, thank you, Councillor Joseph.
This is a document alternative motion option 2 with the... Yeah, thank you.
That's correct. Any other points of clarification on this proposed alternative? Okay, thank you, because I will proceed with the meeting if we're clear. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll be looking for a seconder. Councillor Joseph.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. Is there any opposition? Is there any opposition to this? Councillor Bernard? Thank you. Seeing opposition, we will now move to debate. And Councillor Young, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. My apologies for the confusion. There was a little last-minute rejigging that I had to do to accommodate for this. I am attempting to be consistent in my approach to the budget this year, in line with the alternative motion that I moved at last year's budget, where I believe that we need to have a bit better go at finding some savings and assessing expenditure such that we can provide best value for the community. And so the mechanics of the motion that I have moved tonight includes a provision to be added to the budget that is an essential line item of $1.3 million of savings. This figure is the amount that would be received in additional rate revenue caused by the 2.75% increase in the original or the circulated budget documents. This $1.3 million would be assessed by way of a committee of the council, such that we could look at further information around expenditure and be able to make recommendations back for adoption by council on where we might be able to affect savings. I guess the core of this is that this budget process started off really strong, in my opinion. We had some lessons learnt that from discussions last year around how we might approach this year's budget and the process that we were all involved in. And I think it was really good at the start in that the initial options that were provided to council was started with a base budget that is essentially the revenue from the previous year. And I really did like that approach because it allowed us to go, okay, what can we do with the same amount of revenue? And then if we do need to increase revenue by way of a rates rise, where is that needed? And we could make a decision about any rate increase in the context of we are going to fall short in delivering what we want to deliver, our expectations and of the community, and we can justify any increase that we might have because we are going to fall short and we've made a conscious decision about that. So that was the starting point of the budget process, and I was quite encouraged by that. I feel that somewhere along the process we kind of lost sight of that, and it became a case of, again, having lots and lots of time spent on what the extra $1.3 million revenue from a rates rise was going to be spent on. And the conversation moved away from whether we should be pulling this money in to spend on things that it needed, and it became a conversation about, okay, we've got this money, what can we find to spend it on? And that was just my impression of how it went. And so I don't think we carefully assessed all of the expenditure across the organisation, such that we could not only look at projects that come up from time to time that we do want to spend money on, but that we could retrospectively look back at things that we are spending money on and ask ourselves whether this was a legacy decision of a previous council or circumstances have changed, and that it might be something that we don't want to continue to spend money on. And so this proposal that I have tonight allows the council group to have some accountability in that space and take responsibility for looking at revenue through the lens of finding savings, because that's the commitment of this motion, is to find that figure in savings such that we're not passing on a rate increase to the ratepayers. And I think it's really important that this group takes responsibility for that. It's not on the staff. It's not the fault of the staff, but any bureaucratic body will find ways to spend money. If you give them money, they'll find ways to spend it. No department in any level of government has ever come back the next year and asked for a decrease in the revenue that's provided to them. So it's just the way it is. It's the nature of people. It's no fault of anyone's, but that's just what will happen. And so if we increased rates by 5%, 10%, 20%, the organisation will find a way to spend it. And it doesn't answer the question as to whether we should spend it, whether we're getting best value for money, and whether we might want to change priorities away from receiving money and spending and actually allowing. Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Joseph, would you like to reserve or now? The seconder.
I'll say a few words in support. I totally support what Councillor Young is saying. Any business that is in a competitive environment would soon learn that you can't continue to put your prices up. At some point, you have to get more efficient. I come from manufacturing, and that's what manufacturing is all about. You've got to continually have cost downs. You've got to find better ways to do the same thing with less money. So, yeah, I think that should apply to council. Just because council has the power to make people pay their rates, I don't think means that we should continually put more and more pressure on our ratepayers to pay more and more. There is a cost of living crisis, and I think a lot of people are doing it tough. So I completely agree with a 0% increase or lack of increase. And also, like, looking at the budget, I have to say I had an enormous amount of difficulty establishing what the 2.75% actually was in dollar terms, because there seem to be different figures that I have come across. So, yeah, I totally support this, and I think, yeah, it will lead to opportunities to look at the cost structure of the council, to have greater transparency, and to hopefully be more efficient. Certainly, Councillor Young and I have tried to get information on which we can make better informed decisions about how we're actually currently spending money, and that hasn't always been forthcoming. So I think, yeah, totally support it, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. Would anyone like to speak in opposition of the motion? Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not exactly talking in opposition. I think it's more the timeliness of the motion itself. I think we would all agree that the Shire needs to look for cost savings and efficiency, but we shouldn't put the cart before the horse. The Shire needs to identify key budgetary elements, operational deficiencies before we make decisions that would affect the resourcing, delivery of council works and programs in real time. I would propose that we look further at Councillor Young's section 5. It speaks to the establishment of an advisory expenditure review committee to review the proposed savings, efficiencies and potential deferrals to address the proposed expenditure. An exceptional idea that could be explored in the next financial year for the following budget cycle, 27-28. So I cannot support the motion at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scanlon. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Would anyone else like to speak against the motion? Councillor Bonanno.
Thank you, Mayor. I take Councillor Young's points. Yeah, I think it was last year. It's almost a repeat, but so thank you for the efforts, and understand that, I missed a lot of the budget workshops, but the real opportunity to look at those expenditure items, I think, was at that point. Unfortunately, I disagree with you, Councillor Scanlon. I don't think the committee is a good idea. That's what our responsibilities are as councillors, and in that workshop, that's our opportunity, is my view. From a macro perspective, there's pressures from everywhere for council, for ratepayers, cost of living, but also council's costs as well go up. And most of the time they go up even more than inflation. So as much as I would love to give the community a 0% rate increase, I just don't think it's feasible. And I think it's actually, it's absolutely not the right thing to do by the community. Otherwise there's cuts everywhere with service delivery, lots of things that will be impacted, which we just can't fathom at this point. So I cannot support this motion, and I think with the budget as I've seen it, with it's reached a balance with a foreshadowed officer recommendation amended. There's no increase in staff numbers as well, so I think there's a bit of a balance there that we've met. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonanno. Would anyone like to speak for or against the motion? I'll throw it open. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I'll be speaking against the motion. Again, I think we understand the sentiment where Councillor Young is coming from of trying to limit the stresses on our community that pay rates. But we've had this discussion, many of our community members do not pay rates, they're in rentals and they don't actually have to pay a rate. And we do need some form of income to support all the many services that we have. I do agree that we can improve the budget process, and I look forward to us doing that and feeding in what went right, what went wrong, and improving things. There's always ways to improve. And so this idea of efficiencies, I think the staff have presented to us that they feel they have found as many efficiencies as they can. We may be able to, if we can ask specific questions, find some areas that haven't been identified. But we do have a rather ambitious council plan, and our community does have expectations of all that we will provide. So I think it is important that we do adopt a budget with the rate cap that is there. We haven't gone out and asked for more, so we have tightened up things and we will be doing things differently, and we're looking for efficiencies. And so I think we can still modify the processes each time we go through the budget to start earlier and to have better conversations. Unfortunately, briefings are jam-packed, and as councillors learn more about the process and what they need to ask, it does make it a little bit easier. The first couple of budgets can be harder. So I believe there is a motion from another councillor, and I do like that because it talks about adopting the budget, but also some processes to report back for some assurances of what is in the budget will be followed through. And I do like that. I think that if we put something in the budget, we need to be accountable for it. And so we need the funding to do that. And we run the risk of delaying things happening should this motion pass, because by the time you've set things up, you've got it formalised, you've met, you've discussed things, you've got a couple of months of pause when you can't spend a lot of the money because you don't know where those efficiencies may lie. So I think at this point in time of the budget cycle, it is inappropriate to be putting up a motion like this. But maybe we can, as to Councillor Scanlon's point, have a discussion around some improved ways to feel that where councillors feel they've had a better input and have really pursued those efficiencies and an understanding of what staff has looked at. It's complex, it's complicated, but we can improve things. And I do think that this motion is going to complicate things further because of the timeframes and delays in things happening on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Would anyone else like to speak for or against? Councillor Borthwick.
Yeah, I came into tonight's council meeting really struggling and really grappling with this decision. In part, I absolutely identify with the sentiment behind Councillor Young's motion. he and I have had many robust debates around financial responsibility, fiscal responsibility, community sustainability, small business operations, you know, corporate. We've spent many a times battling in that playground. For me, the challenge is that we're at the 11th hour with an alternative in front of us. And I absolutely agree and echo the sentiment around the budget process started strong. We started with a 0% position. That was a position that we entered in, and when we initially started those discussions, we ended up with a shortfall of, I think it was about 750,000 from memory. And yet we've ended up in the position that we're at, with which is an ambitious budget. And as Councillor Anderson has spoken to, there is an alternative there which talks about accountability and how we can do this better moving forward. The budget's about balance. It's about balancing community expectation and service, as well as the infrastructure that we need to maintain. And that was a massive priority for us this year. How do we maintain the investments that we have? And I have a very, very real and deep concern that if we go down this pathway, then we risk not being able to deliver on those things and those ambitious pieces of work that we've popped into this budget, particularly around our capital works program. And at this particular point in time, that is certainly not a risk that I am prepared to take. I absolutely support us doing this process better and improving upon it again next year. This is a difficult decision that we are faced with, but sometimes we need to make those difficult decisions. And for that reason, I just can't support the motion that's on the table tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Borthwick. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? I might say some words. Thank you, Governance. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Young. Thank you for putting this up. First up, I'm genuinely open to considering a 0% rate rise. And through the budget process, I did have a suggestion, you know, would we want to do something different? But it was not something that I had buy-in from. So, and unfortunately, did not, you know, choose to progress any conversations on that. So I think that if this is something we may never get buy-in to do. So I just think it's about optimising what you have and what's in front of you and understanding the councillor cohort. The thing about this approach that I don't like as much as it just creates more red tape and bureaucracy to get there. So I think I'm not keen to make more advisory committees. I think Councillor Bonanno said that, and I know Councillor Scanlon had pros for it, but be very reluctant to create more work, more committees, more, you know, just resourcing around this approach. I think the whole beauty of this an approach to you know, custom rate is to actually work smartly all together. And there have been councils that have done this, you know, but they've started very early on altogether. I don't think there's been alternatives at, you know, meetings and things like that. So I just think it's a reality. There's realities of local government financial sustainability. There's realities of councillor cohorts. There's all these realities at play. But I think it's a great conversation to keep having, and I think it also steers us closer to being really, you know, mindful custodians of ratepayer funding. And I think that's really important. Like we always talk about, every dollar is a dollar that we should be very mindful of. So I think your perspective, and Councillor Joseph as well, I think it's great that we have this diversity of opinion when it comes to the budget, and we're not just, you know, gung-ho and noting that some are even doing 5%, you know, all of those things. But I'm really proud of the budget that's in front of us, noting that your alternative would have kept all of those things as well. But I think it's just it's probably the implementation isn't that practical and achievable, but keen to do, you know, explore conversations in the future. So thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Otherwise, we'll go back to Councillor Young for right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, councillors, for contributions and feedback and advice and conversations that we've had along this way. I agree, Mayor, that the added red tape and process and the added work is not something that I find too desirable. However, I found that, again, after this budget process, it was actually the only mechanism left available to me to affect this change, because last year we all said the same things. We all talked about efficiencies and savings and value, and we all talked about where we can find benefit for the ratepayer, and you know, the ideal scenario of not having to put rates up. We did that. We talked about that last year, and then the budget process got waylaid and went down a different path. We reached a point where Councillor Borthwick mentioned we had a $750,000 deficit in what we wanted to achieve, and all of a sudden it was now $1.3 million extra that we were taking from ratepayers. So I fear that they're all great sentiments that everyone's talking about now, and I really look forward to everyone's commitment to those sentiments as we approach next year's budget process, because I would love for this group to be able to back up those statements and actually deliver as little increase to ratepayers as we can, and find the best benefit that we can out of that money. I guess every level of government with this kind of revenue, it always organically grows, and it's never quite matched up exactly with what we need to provide and what the revenue income is. It's always, you know, what the revenue's turned into over time, and let's just spend it. So this is an opportunity to have a little bit of a reset for that. But thank you, everyone. Look forward to next year's process and hopefully delivering no increase.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Now going to call the item to a vote. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. The motion is lost. Division? Thank you. All those in favour? We have Councillor Young and Councillor Joseph. And all those opposed, please raise your hand. We'll start online. We've got Councillor Anderson, Councillor Bonanno. We've got Councillor Borthwick abstain, but counts no. Councillor Kendall, Councillor Guthrie, Councillor Pearce, and Councillor Scanlon. Great, thank you. The motion is lost, and we'll now take a moment and I'll be looking for a new motion to consider. Councillor Borthwick.
Thank you, Mayor. There's been a number of papers circulated this afternoon, and there is a councillor amended recommendation or councillor amendment, and it is the pages that contain both blue and red as circulated. The key points, and I might, if I may, Mayor Kendall, given the length of it, just read the amended components to that. And that is that point 5 requests the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, to provide as part of the mid-year budget review a consolidated capital works reporting that brings together existing reporting into a single accessible format for councillors, and that includes a complete list of approved capital projects, a current project status, expenditure to date against budget, and a summary of project risks, including key constraints and mitigation actions. Point 6 notes that any capital works not delivered by the 30th of June 2027 will be prioritised for carry forward into the 2027-28 financial year budget, subject to standard budget and governance processes. And 7 notes that this does not create new reporting requirements, but improves visibility and accessibility of existing information to support informed decision making.
Thank you, Councillor Borthwick. And just to clarify, it also includes a circulated amended later in the chamber from following PE4.
Correct.
Thank you. Point of clarification, Councillor Joseph, because point of clarification?
No, it's good. Sorry.
We have a Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, I'm happy to second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just ask people.
May I ask a point of clarification?
Point of clarification, Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if Councillor Borthwick could read out for the gallery the amendment that were made to the officer recommendation, so people know, and particularly that last amendment that just came to us later, just because that bit is different to what was in the budget paper.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. We will read out point 8. Thank you.
Point 8 and point 1.
And point 1.
Yeah, so we'll start with point 1, and that's Council adopts the budget 2026-27 prepared in accordance with Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020 as attached with this agenda, effective of the 1st of July 2026, with the following amendments to Appendix 1. Summary of new initiatives to identify them as one-off initiatives 2026-27 financial year, with any future funding to be considered through future annual budget processes. Number 2, Parks Civil Resource Recovery. New initiative description: increased green waste-free periods for residents. Category IBB, ongoing, is no longer yes, it is no. Number 4, the department is community strengthening. The new initiative description is increased funding for neighbourhood houses. Category IBB, ongoing, is no. And number 5, community strengthening, allocation of funds to local food banks via neighbourhood houses. Category NP, ongoing, yes has been crossed and no has been replaced. And point 8, note submissions and officers' responses to submissions in Attachment 2, Attachment 3 and Attachment 4 to this report, with the officer responses to submission P46, P47, P55 and P56 in Attachment 2, amended to note that Council provides an allocation of $15,000 in the 2026-27 budget to support the Maribyrnong River and Waterways Association. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we've had a seconder. Is it Councillor Bernardo?
A point of clarification?
Yeah, sure.
I note, thank you, Councillor Borthwick, for the motion. I note that this was only shared with us today. Was there any discussions with the CEO about the impacts of this motion?
Councillor Borthwick.
Yes, I have discussed with the appropriate directors and the CEO and did have support to prepare this motion.
Thank you. Is there opposition? Seeing opposition, we'll move to debate. And Councillor Borthwick, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. This isn't about, we're moving the budget with the amendments, and this isn't about making existing. This is about making, for me, existing information. So this information that is being requested for in this amended motion, we do have that, but what that requires of us councillors is to be able to go through a whole lot of documentation to be able to get it. So the reason for the amendment is to strengthen accountability without adding bureaucracy. We talked about bureaucracy in the previous motion, and this is about being able to essentially easily identify what's happening, how it's happening, and how it's progressing, and ensure that projects stay visible even if timelines shift. It helps us monitor not just what we approve, but what we actually deliver. As stated before, a budget's about delivering and balancing community experience as well as the needs and the infrastructure and the long-term fiscal sustainability of the council. And quite often when we release our budgets, we release that and community sentiment is that we set an expectation. So for me, this is about being able to, not just us as councillors have ease of access to that information, but also the community to understand where we're tracking, how we're tracking, and for that expectation to be met and delivered upon. It's often something we find a little bit of a challenge, is that disconnect between community expectation and need. And I think this is just a really easy, clean way of being able to manage that. And as I said, with an ambitious budget that we've set this year, and understanding, there's a lot of work that's gone into it, for me, this is definitely about clarity and oversight. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Scanlon, would you like to reserve or speak?
Oh, I can speak, Phil.
Yeah, sure, no worries.
Just to be clear, I'm just really speaking about Councillor Borthwick's amendment, which is the writing in blue on whichever page it's on, section 5. Is thank you, Councillor Borthwick, for putting this amended motion forward. For the Shire, delivering capital works program on time and on budget is undoubtedly difficult and complex. How we consult, design, tender, cost manage and deliver capital works all have financial and time constraints that can be unforeseeable and often fall outside the current calendar of operations in a given budget period. Councillor Borthwick's amended motion not only helps to recognise this complexity, but more importantly gives the community a greater visibility, understanding of how these ideas are developed, how the works are going, and how they sit in our current budget cycle, and the development of contingencies early in the phase of conceptualisation, development, construction. This would only help too to identify cost savings, efficiencies and streamline the process going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scanlon. Would anyone like to speak in opposition of the motion? I might say some words. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to oppose this motion for debate because I really, one of the comments that Councillor Borthwick made was we're at the 11th hour with an alternative. And I must say that is completely what has been done here. We have not even been given this alternative until, I think, 10 hours ago or today. And I just think that it's really important that with something as important as a budget process, we really take the time to work together and to really canvass councillors, and that we don't just kind of disrupt a process when we've spent so long all working together for many, many weeks and months on it. I think the amended officer recommendation was simple, it was streamlined, it was easy. And I know that it does say that this, you did mention, Councillor Borthwick, that this isn't more bureaucracy, but I think any time there is a report that's created or directed to be created does create its time, its officer cost, its resourcing, resources are stretched. The staff have already put in so much work into this budget process, and we have already spent so many times in briefing, councillor only time. And so I just think we really need to be careful with how many more reports and things we create and how many more resources that we demand of our already working hard council organisation. So all in all, the budget, because this may be the only opportunity I get to speak to the budget as well, I did want to say that I do think the inclusions in the budget are absolutely fantastic. I was really pleased with the feedback that we got from the community. There's a digital transformation project that's almost been a decade-long wait for council, and I think the inclusions of things like thriving villages, neighbourhood houses, funding relief for our food banks, fee freeze for small businesses, reduced fees for hanging rocks, season passes, Malmesbury irrigation during drainage works, brilliant, and increasing of the green waste free passes from 2 to 6 are excellent. The important structural works to things like Kyneton Showgrounds, Grandstand Roof, I think are really important to get done, and it's also about safety. Wood End Clock Tower renewal works, great to see. Again, this is not just about the flagpole, it's about securing council assets for generations to come, and also the change room detailed design of Wood End Racecourse Reserve change rooms. So super proud of what we've done in with this budget work. I think it's brilliant, and I wanted to thank Adele, former Director of Corporate, Acting Director of Corporate, and Travis and Caitlin, an entire corporate team for their work and all the patience that's been shown from the council organisation. So absolutely happy to support the budget, but my feedback tonight is let's support the organisation more as councillors and be mindful of our time. So thank you. Great. Would anyone else like to speak for or against this motion? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I'm happy to speak for the motion. I think, as I spoke to the other one, the processes are never perfect and we always have feedback. But the community submissions, we get a lot more than many councils do. And I think the staff have spent a lot of time and effort in working on those responses and working with councillors who know those community groups as well to try and get some consistency. We would love to find so many things that come before us, but some just aren't, fully worked up yet, or we just don't, it's not the right timing, or something else needs to happen first. So, if you look back at, and my question was looking back at the projections, because we give 4-year projections for what we think might happen in the next 4 years, and that's a mandatory requirement legislated by state government. It's only guesswork. And things change over time, the number of residents, what projects, the big projects that go ahead versus smaller ones. So if anyone looks at capital works, they may be critical and say, you're doing less capital works than previously, but we've had some big projects in previous years. We've really tried to focus, and this has been in response to everybody else, on maintaining what we already have rather than pursuing too many new projects. But at the same time, there has to be commitment to safety as well. So I think we've really looked at where are the dangerous issues, where are the long-standing projects, the ones that really need investment. We want to make sure that the roads are maintained, that there's those footpaths maintained, so we've invested in that. The term balance budget is really hard, but it just basically means that we can pay all our bills that we need to, we can continue to operate, but we're also providing some services, and it's great that we've been able to put some community initiatives. The mechanism that has been added in above and beyond the recommendation by the council staff, I think is actually a good one, because I think it will help with future budget processes through tracking the processes. Because I think sometimes councillors, we get so much information, it's in so many different places, to draw it all together in one place will make it easy to understand why are we doing this, where is this going, what happened here, is it going to be replicated with other projects, how can we avoid it? So I think the addition is actually a good thing, which will improve the process. But overall, budgets are really, really difficult. It is balancing the condensed version that we sent out just on the broad principles. We got some pretty good feedback on, and the majority of people thought we'd kind of got the balance right. It's only on limited information. But honestly, if we sent you out lots and lots of pages which are in the final budget, would you read it all? Probably not. A simple version is easy. But I think councillors, we have more information than the community. It's always hard work, and I think we did have a lot of discussions. Not everybody gets their projects up, but we have got some good new inclusions there. We are maintaining our assets. We're trying to keep all those figures in the right areas, and the added part that Councillor Borthwick is suggesting, I think, will help give us more information to assist in the next budget process. So I support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Otherwise, I'll go back to Councillor Borthwick for right of reply. Yeah, Councillor Borthwick.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for the commentary. Ultimately, I'm not looking to add to the bureaucracy at all. And I think in terms of the 11th hour conversation, this was a conversation that I had sparked and flagged with councillors last week at briefing, and have been having with the organisation for a number of days. So I first started these conversations with via email, and I'm happy to provide you with the email trail, but they have started a number of days before the 11th hour commentary. For me, this is important because it maintains visibility, continuity and accountability, and it gives us and the community the confidence that the agreed projects that are in this budget will actually be delivered. So it's not about changing what we deliver, and understanding that there is an incredible amount of pride for many within this budget, but it's about making sure that we deliver it with transparency and clear oversight. So it's about recognising that the balance, and I think that this strikes the balance. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Borthwick. Councillor Bonanno.
Point of clarification.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Bonner.
I think I heard the word transparency 3 times between Councillor Scanlon and Councillor Borthwick. Can I just clarify, is this Consolidated Capital Works report for the community or for councillors?
Councillor Borthwick.
Yeah, if I may. So my understanding is that it will come back at the 6-month mark as part of our annual budget, so that will be available for both us and the community.
Further point?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Bonanno.
Point 5 of the motion mentions request the CEO, such and such, into a single accessible format for councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Bonanno. Councillor Borthwick.
May I seek
a return point of clarification?
Return point of...
Councillor Bonanno, can you elaborate more on what your clarification in on
I think I asked for clarification around whether it's for the community or councillors. I think
and that was confirmed that it's for both. And,
for both.
And
yeah. Point 5 mentions it's in an accessible format for councillors. Doesn't mention the community. So I just wanted to clarify.
Part of the mid-year budget is the request, but accessible formats, so we'll be able to access it through Big Tin Can and the likes.
I think what Councillor Bonanno is saying is it should say for councillors and community. Is that what you're saying, Councillor Bonanno?
My understanding is councillor briefings and notes are all confidential. That's correct.
Councillor Bonanno, the CEO has a suggestion to remove for councillors, just so it doesn't describe who will be using this, and it will just say accessible format.
If I may move that amendment, or if it's a slip rule, whatever, yep, I'd be happy with that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Borthwick, are you happy to accept the word change? I won't go, so, yeah, Councillor Scanlon, are you happy to accept that word change on this?
I'm happy to accept that change.
Thank you, councillors. So, to clarify, we're just removing in item 5 for councillors, just so that this will be a universal, accessible format for all. Thank you. I'll now call the item to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. The motion is carried. Oh, sorry, all those opposed? Thank you.
Can I just ask a
sorry, Councillor Pearce.
Clarification governance, sorry. Because Councillor Bonanno moved the amended to remove, that didn't need a seconder.
So,
Councillor Scanlon, sorry, I missed that.
Can I clarify that Councillor Borthwick put forward that she was happy to amend her own motion? So that it was offered to her seconder, who accepted, and therefore we can move forward.
Thank you.
So, councillors, we'll just take a second. Councillor Bonanno.
Can I get a division, please?
A division. Okay, thank you. I think we haven't moved on, so perfect. All those for the motion. We'll start from online. Again, Councillor Anderson, Councillor Bonanno, Councillor Borthwick, Councillor Kendall, Councillor Guthrie, Councillor Pearce, Councillor Joseph and Councillor Scanlon. All those opposed? Councillor Young. Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Thank you for your time there on the budget. We will keep moving. And we're going to go to the next item in this section. And I'll just give everyone a moment to collect COR2. Shaping the Ranges 2025 to 2035 Year 2 Action Plan and Indicators. And we'll be having an introduction from our Acting Director of Corporate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Before council tonight is the Shaping the Ranges 2025 to 2035 Year 2 Action Plan and Indicators. The Year 2 Action Plan outlines the key initiatives council proposes to deliver during the 2026-27 period in support of the priorities and outcomes set out in the Shaping the Ranges 25-35. It also establishes the performance indicators that will be used to measure and report on council's progress throughout the year. Developed alongside the budget 2026-27, the action plan ensures council's strategic priorities are aligned with the resources and funding required to deliver them and provides a clear framework for monitoring and reporting council's performance. Adoption of the Year 2 Action Plan will support transparent reporting to both Council and the community on the delivery of Council's priorities over the coming year. And there's a recommendation before Council on page 112 of the agenda.
Thank you, Acting Director of Corporate. As noted, there is the officer recommendation on page 112, and I'll be looking for a motion. Councillor Guthrie.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. The recommendation is that Council adopts the shaping the ranges 2025 to 2035 Year 2 Action Plan and indicators as attached to this report.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Councillor Pearce.
Second motion, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Would anyone like to speak to the resolution? Councillor Scanlon.
I'd just like to commend the Shire, the staff on this extraordinarily good document, put together thoughtfully by councillors and community as well. Just feels that we're being shaped by external forces, it seems. So with examples like Amos Road and Clarkefield, where state government got total disregard for the community aspirations and the current infrastructure and services. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scanlon. Would anyone else like to speak? I'd like to say a quick thanks to Councillor Scanlon has started the thanks, but amazing work again from the team, and thank you to everyone involved, and especially Margot and Alison as well. And the copywriting and just the detail in this has just been phenomenal. So I think it's an excellent update. It's had a few iterations and something that just shows the pure diversity of what council does. So it's just incredible to see that we've got all these action plans. So great work to everyone involved. Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll now keep moving to the last item in this section, which is COR3, Instruments of Delegation. And there is an officer recommendation on page 148 to 150. Councillor Joseph.
I'd like to put forward an alternative motion.
Thank you. Noting this is a very long document, would you like to summarise the points that you've made changes on?
I will.
Thank you.
Basically, it's adopting the officer recommendation, but with the deletion of point 2, which begins in the exercise of powers conferred by the legislation in regard to the S6 instrument delegation. So number 3 then gets renumbered 2, number 4 becomes 3, etc. And there's a new point 4. Requests an updated S6 instrument of delegation to members of council staff be presented to council no later than July 2026 to include A, not delegating sections 17.3 and 17.4 of the Road Management Act 2004, and B, additional conditions and limitations for delegations of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 to reflect the existing call-in process.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. Is there a seconder? Councillor Borthwick.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Borthwick. Is there any opposition? Seeing...
Can I just ask a point of clarification? So is this is coming back to council meeting in... When you say back to council, it's council meeting?
Yes, it's coming back to the council meeting. What's it actually to the council meeting no later than July 2026. The intention is the July meeting, yes.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. Councillor Bonanno.
Just opposition.
Opposition. Okay, seeing opposition, we'll move to debate. Councillor Joseph, you have 5 minutes.
Yep. Thank you very much, Mayor. I've been working on this for quite some time. It's been going back and forth, and finally ended just before the meeting with this amended motion. What this amendment is trying to do is just to bring into the delegation, the S6 delegation, the current policies that we have and current procedures. Currently under the Public Roads Register policy, decisions in relation to the bringing of a road onto the Public Roads Register or the removal comes to council. Those are the powers under the section 17.3 and 17.4 of the Road Management Act to declare whether a road is required for public use or not required. So that is just recognising a policy that we already have. And so to the second point in relation to decisions of council, where they can actually call in any application, Planning Environment Act, on the agreement of 3 councillors. So we have a current procedure in place where we do that, but again, it's not reflected in the delegation. So the intention of this is to actually ensure there's consistency across our documents, that we actually have the proper delegations in the delegation instruments so that staff can refer to that and know that they're getting all the information. And it also creates, greater transparency in what we do, and it's easier for other, external parties, community to access. In relation to the call-in process, obviously, we already have that. We can bring them in. It includes things like Section 173 agreements, and there's been a number of cases where I think councillors have had greater historical information on particular things, have been able to add to that through bringing it to council. So basically, it's not altering what we're currently doing. It's just improving the way that we've documented that. And what this allows is to keep the existing S6 delegation for 1 month, and in that time it allows staff to come up with the appropriate wording to put into the S6 delegation to reflect these changes, and that will then come back to the council meeting where we can decide and approve that document. So it's not a very big change, it's more just about reflecting what we already do and making sure that it's all consistent. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. Councillor Borthwick, would you like to reserve?
Reserve.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to speak in opposition to the motion? Councillor Bonanno.
Thank you, Mayor. My position really is just around, I think we've got lawyers who sort of look after this sort of stuff with the instrument, and us going around changing it like this doesn't sit well with me. The interest in the Road Management Act and changes there, I'm unsure where that's sort of come from, and the whole point around separating policy and instruments with procedure was deliberate, and that's because so we can make procedures agile and change them without having to go back and change an instrument or a policy which is done on an annually or every 4 years. So that's really just the gist of my opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonanno. Councillor Joseph.
Can I just have a point of correction or clarification?
Is it a point of order?
Well, in relation to...
Because it's governance? No.
In relation to the claim that this would not allow legal consultation.
2 seconds. Are you raising a point of clarification? I think it's a point of order that you're probably raising. And can you please state the number?
Is it
would you say 55-2? Is that what you're saying, misrepresentation of facts in your perspective?
55A2?
Yeah,
55A2. There's been an error of fact or misrepresentation of the facts, but I say that with the due respect to Councillor Bonanno, if I can say, the intention of this is so that council officers can get legal advice if they need to in order to frame what goes into the... So I just was clarifying that.
Sorry, is it a point of order or a point... I'm confused.
Sorry. Councillor Bonanno, it's a point of order and it's 55A2 and Councillor... And because debate is finished, I'm just going to note it and we're going to keep moving because there's no debate and there's no debate on point of order as well. And because Councillor Bonanno has finished, I'm just going to keep moving, if that's okay with everyone. So, would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Online, sorry, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I'll be speaking for the motion. I'll just keep it very brief. So I think where this is coming from is at the moment there seems to be discrepancies between some of our policies or internal procedures and what is in the instrument of delegation. And to Councillor Bonanno's point, yes, we can do what we like with procedures and policies, but they are subservient to legislation. So the delegations policy, anything in that will override anything in our policy. So if there are inconsistencies, and we believe there may may be in the road, the naming of roads or the putting roads on a register, and there may be in terms of the wording in the exceptions for what in the planning is not delegated, given we have created a new internal way of working. We need some clarification of that, and it may be that we get some legal advice on that so that the staff are comfortable and we're comfortable, but it is some potential errors or discrepancies between internal policies and the delegations. So by sending this back, getting more advice, coming back in a month's time, we've got that information to know what it means, where we're at, what do we put these things in, how do we achieve it. So I support the motion because I think it's really important. There's no point having a policy that staff work on and they haven't looked at the delegations and there's a discrepancy there, because then you end up having two different things, no one knows what they're doing, and that's when errors are made. So I support the point about making sure these two areas are consistent with our policies, or do we need to change our policies, and we'll look at the options there.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. I just want to clarify for councillors that we're talking about an instrument here. We're not talking about a policy. So if we can, please, talk about instrument of what's in front of us.
Sorry, Mayor Kendall, if I can just clarify, I wasn't talking about the instrument as a policy. It's our other policies that are subservient to the instrument, two separate items.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Pearce, do you have a...
I just had a question because...
Sorry, a point of clarification.
Point of clarification, if I put my teeth in. So we had heard from officers at a briefing that sometimes changes can affect the provisions, or that can therefore have another effect on other provisions in other legislation. So I just wanted to hear, because we received this late, if officers felt that July was a good time.
Councillor Pearce, in terms of points of clarification, it has to be on what's included in the motion, so we cannot seek further opinion from officers outside of opinions of the motion at hand. So in this case, I will not be seeking clarification unless it's directly related to the motion.
Okay.
Is that okay? Thank you. Unless you'd like to raise another point of clarification.
No, I don't know how I can.
Yes, okay.
Because this was given so late, I didn't have a chance to.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Pearce. Now, will anyone like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Borthwick.
Yeah, thank you. I think further to Councillor Joseph's commentary around how long she's been working on this, it's been some time, and I don't think this has sort of been a drop. This has been a long and arduous process. The thing that gives me comfort is that this isn't being dragged on for many number of months. We are asking for, a short recess, if you like, to allow everyone to gain, I guess, a little bit of composure and make sure that the end outcome is really good. And I think particularly in consideration of our item P2 on tonight's agenda, it's really important that we take that time where it's required to reset and put forward. So for that reason, I'm quite comfortable supporting the motion before us this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Borthwick. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Pearce, go.
Thank you. I'm just considering for or against at the moment, because this what I'm reading here came only 10 minutes before the council meeting started, the actual final things. And while I absolutely support that we take some time to ensure our policies, although I understand that this has been in discussions, but it was just the timeline on July that I haven't had a chance to check if that was an okay timeline with officers that the work could be done. Therefore, I just have concerns on that. It was just about the July timeline, but I understand bringing it, if there's concerns on these two aspects, not that these will continue until the July council meeting, and there are concerns that can be clarified. I agree with that to be done. So I'm just still considering that as information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? I'll say some words, thank you. So as sometimes as Mayor, I try and get a view of the whole councillor cohort and try and move us forward and find common ground so we can get things done. And with this motion, this was a big compromise, if I may say so, of what Councillor Joseph put up initially. So I think I'm happy that we are getting somewhere and that this is it's the best version of what I've seen. So I think that it's saying what we do already and noting it in the instrument, which I, know that says that's a surety for some councillors, and note that we did get told that this is something that we were going to be working on anyway, so that was communicated to councillors. So I think it's just about putting a little bit of a deadline or a date for transparency of the public on it. So happy to support it, happy to keep moving, happy to just to get things finalised. So thank you. Would anyone else like to speak for or against? Otherwise, we'll go back to Councillor Joseph and write a reply.
Thank you. First, I'll say I didn't mean any disrespect to Councillor Bonanno, but you obviously hadn't read all the instalments of my version, and the previous one did actually mention getting legal advice. So the difference in the time to July will allow council staff to actually formulate and get advice on the correct wording and the correct modification to the S6 instrument. I had a number of versions of this. I spoke to the Mayor, also spoke to staff, and they helped me, albeit at the last minute. I thank them sincerely for their efforts at the end, and so this was the compromise position that came through. And yeah, look, it's a start on the delegations, basically just making sure that what we're already doing is actually in the delegation in one place, so you don't actually have to look at different documents to find out what the actual process is or what people are actually able to do. So it really streamlines things. It'll come back in July and then we can approve it. We'll have the document all done then, and in the meantime the current S6 will continue till July, to the July meeting. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. I'll now call the item to a vote. All those for the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. The motion is carried. Division, Councillor Bernardo?
Yes, please.
Okay. All those for the motion, and I'll start from online. If Councillor Anderson, we've got Councillor Young, we've got Councillor Borthwick, we've got Councillor Guthrie, Councillor Kendall, Councillor Pearce, and Councillor Joseph, and Councillor Scanlon. All those opposed? Councillor Bonanno. The motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Well, thank you. We will keep moving to section 14, community reports. And the only item in this section is COM1 Youth Council 2026 Progress Report, and we'll be having an introduction from our Director of Community. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This report for noting provides Council with a progress update on the establishment of the Macedon Ranges Shire Youth Council following Council's endorsement of the programme in November last year. The report outlines the significant work that has been undertaken to establish the Youth Council, including the development of the recruitment process by a youth-led working group, assessment and appointment of 9 youth councillors, and the design of the induction, training, governance and evaluation frameworks that will support the programme over its first term. The Youth Council represents a new and more formal mechanism for ensuring young people's voices are heard in council decision making. It aligns with the objectives of Shaping the Ranges and Council's youth strategy and reflects our commitment to creating meaningful opportunities for young people to participate in civic life and help shape the future of our Shire. Tonight's report formally introduces the youth councillors, outlines the support structures and budget arrangements that will underpin the programme, and sets out how its success will be measured over the coming 2 years.
Thank you, Director of Community. There's an officer recommendation, councillors, on page 153, and I'll be looking for a motion. Councillor Joseph.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to put that the Council notes the Youth Council Progress Report and supports the next steps of the Youth Council establishment.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. Councillor Scanlon.
I'm happy to second that motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scanlon. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Would anyone like to speak to the resolution? Councillor Borthwick.
Thanks, Mayor. This is a really positive update. Thank you. And I want to acknowledge the young people that have been chosen to be involved in the Youth Council. Putting your hand up to engage in local government, ask questions and contribute your perspective is not always easy, but it's certainly a worthwhile cause. I think programs like this are really important because they create opportunities for our young people to better understand the council process, but I also think that it's really important for us because it allows us to demonstrate how decisions are made and gives us the benefit of hearing a youthful perspective. So congratulations to all of those selected and thanks for the positive update.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Otherwise we'll keep moving. Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We're going to go to item section 15 of the agenda, and the first item in this section is A01, Kerbside Collection and Associated Services Charge Policy, and we'll be having an introduction from our Director of Assets and Operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. This report presents the updated Kerbside Collection and Associated Services Charge Policy for Council consideration. The policy has been reviewed following community consultation and reflects changes since the introduction of the 4-bin system in 2020, including greater flexibility for businesses, improved guidance for multi-unit developments and clearer processes around service management and cost recovery. The policy also provides greater transparency around services funded through the waste charge and supports Council's ongoing commitment to reducing landfill and improving resource recovery outcomes.
Thank you, Director Assets and Operations. And Councillors, there's an officer recommendation on 160 page of the agenda, and I'll be looking for a motion. Councillor Guthrie.
Happy to move the recommendation that Council adopts the draft Kerbside Collection and Associated Services Charge Policy 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bonanno.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Bonanno. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Would anyone like to speak to the resolution? Councillor Guthrie.
Very briefly, thank you, Mayor. In the last term of Council, we started considering the issue with multi-unit developments, and we had 2 in Lancefield, which are both now under construction. They're 10-unit developments, and that means that 1 week of the month, you potentially got 30 bins out on the street, which was hideous. So an important part of this update was looking at multi-unit developments and putting in common collection facilities so that we don't have that situation where there's 30 bins sitting in the street. So that's a very important update to this, and also it sets out what we're going to be accepting with bin sizes and the ongoing community education, which is critical because we still do get a bit of contamination, not as much as we were, but still more than we should. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Would anyone else like to speak? No? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for all their hard work on that policy. We're going to keep moving. Thank you. We're going to go to the second item, which in this section, A02, response to petition regarding urgent replacement of the lift at Kyneton Toyota Sports and Aquatic Centre. And we'll be having another introduction from our Director at A&O. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. This report responds to the petition received regarding the lift at the Kyneton Toyota Sports and Aquatic Centre. We acknowledge the concerns raised by users of the facility and the impact that unreliable lift access has created, particularly for those accessing the upstairs studio space. The existing lift is at the end of its operational life. However, replacement is not a simple like-for-like renewal and would require significant works estimated at approximately $600,000. The recommendation recognises the need to balance immediate accessibility needs through interim management arrangements, while considering a longer-term investment through Council's broader asset and budget planning processes.
Thank you, Director Assets and Operations. And councillors, there is an officer recommendation on page 180. Oh, Councillor Pearce.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
I'll
Happy to
move the motion on page 189.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Guthrie.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'm happy to second the motion as printed on page 189 and 190. It does go over the second page.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Would anyone like to speak to the resolution? Councillor Pearce.
Yes, thanks. Thank you for the introduction. I think that's covered a lot, and also that there are 6 points in the recommendation from Council. I also wanted to note that we did receive a budget submission from community as well, so that was important. So we have really looked at this. It is the estimated cost on 600,000, but particularly it's important to note that point 5 develops and implements an interim accessibility management plan for affected users of the upstairs studio space, and that's including A, ongoing engagement with user groups and affected individuals, B, provision of alternate accessible spaces where required, C, operational protocols during lift outages, and D, review of future accessibility requirements for the facility. So that this will all continue while we look at options and look at next budget and our asset budgets as well. So we're very aware. Thank you to everyone who signed the petition and made councillors aware of it.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Would anyone else like to speak? No, we'll keep moving. Thank you. We're going to go into the final item in this section, which is 803, response to the notice of motion, management of Lancefield Park, and we'll be having another introduction from our Director of Assets and Operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. This report responds to the notice of motion regarding the future management arrangements for Lancefield Park. Lancefield Park is an important community sporting and recreation precinct currently managed by a volunteer committee of management on behalf of the state government. The report outlines the current governance arrangements, asset considerations, operational requirements and potential financial implications associated with any future change in management responsibility. The recommendation tonight does not seek to make a decision on transfer of management, but provides a pathway for further detailed assessment, including engagement with the Committee of Management and relevant state government agencies to ensure any future decision is fully informed.
Thank you, Director Assets and Operations. And councillors, I'll be looking for a motion. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to move the motion on page 202.
Thank you. Councillors, is there a seconder? Councillor Anderson.
Oh no, I want to amend, so you'll need a seconder before I can amend, I believe.
Yes, no worries. Your hand was up. I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor Scanlon.
I'm happy to second that motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Sorry, Councillor Guthrie?
Can I raise a question, please?
Point of clarification?
Yes, and that the officer recommendation requests officers prepare a report. I don't believe we can do that. I believe
CAO?
Should be the CAO, shouldn't be officers. I'm not going to be directing officers.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Councillors, I'm happy to, if we can move it with request the CEO.
Yes.
So, Councillor Young, are you happy to move it with that? And Councillor Scanlon as well. So we'll be removing requesting officers. We'll request the CEO. Councillor Scanlon, are you okay? Thank you. So, thank you, Councillor Young, and Councillor Guthrie, if you could turn your mics off. Is there opposition? Councillor Anderson, is that opposition?
No, I'd like to propose an amendment.
Okay. Councillor Anderson, what is your amendment?
The amendment had been circulated as an alternative motion, but I believe it doesn't negate what's there, it just adds to it. And it did include request the CEO in point 2, but it also had in point 2 to include current council and committee of management, operational spending, potential future financial investment required both for standard operating asset maintenance and future funding needs identified in the current committee of management master plan. Should council become the committee of management, sorry, it's hard because I've got to print it off here. and then the rest of the officer recommendation, and that the report include all parcels of land managed by the Lancefield Park Recreation Reserve Committee of Management and any immediately surrounding land managed or owned by council, which was circulated to councillors previously.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Young, do you accept the amendment?
You have to seek, you have to seek a seconder for the amendment.
Oh, yes, sorry, excuse me. Is there a seconder for the amendment, Councillor Joseph? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to second it.
Okay. I'll accept the amendment and offer it up to Councillor Young. Councillor Young, do you accept?
Yes.
You accept. Okay. Councillor Scanlon, do you accept?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. So we're now going to consider that motion, and I'll say, is there any opposition? And seeing opposition, we'll move to debate. So, Councillor Young, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Please don't take my tone as a sign of my level of enthusiasm for this motion, because I'm feeling quite crook at the moment. But I'm just really glad that this item is getting traction, that it isn't being forgotten, that it is rearing up its ugly head such that Council can consider everything we need to consider and possibly find a pathway forward. It is appropriate that something like this is managed in a careful way, because there are a lot of moving parts, a lot of unknowns, and there's a significant range of risks that we need to consider, all the way from financial risk to future risk of whatever might be already on the site, whatever needs to be done to bring it up to standard. There's a whole range of things that need to be considered, but also to bring the community along as well. This is not something that Council is pursuing, in my view, as something that it wants to impose on the community. We're approaching this in a considered way, such that the community can provide its feedback. That's evident in the fact that this report actually provides a number of options that would allow the community to perhaps continue to have input if it was best placed to do so, all the way to a wholly managed position of Council. And so the consideration of risks, the consideration of some of the items that have been added by Councillor Anderson, I don't think are probably required at the moment, given the stage that this is in, but I'm not going to oppose their inclusion. And I just think that the Lancefield community should be very excited that this is on the radar, and that this is the perfect time to be advocating to their local member ahead of a state election in November to get some funding, because if Council does want to have a place in this, we can provide some very good ongoing management resources, but there's certainly going to have to be some commitment from a state government for some capital works there to bring the place up to scratch. So I look forward to any of those commitments coming from the state government, and just want to encourage the people of Lancefield who use this park to keep at it.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Councillor Scanlon, would you like to speak or reserve?
I can speak on the...
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Scanlon.
On the alternative motion. Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'd just like to commend Councillor Young on bringing this forward, the original notice of motion, and the staff for then working through all the issues that are before us. I think Councillor Anderson's alternative is probably a more comprehensive sort of view as to what may happen and what could happen with the management of Lancefield Park, and it's good to prosecute those things earlier rather than later. So I think that it's as good a time as any to start to delve into the how that management would look going forwards. Just feels like the committee, the management committee, Lancefield Park, are just sitting on the bench waiting for the game to finish. So yeah, they're pretty eager to get back on the field. So to use any other pun would be crazy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scanlon. Would anyone like to speak in opposition to the motion? I might say some words. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Young, for bringing this forward through the notice of motion. And absolutely love the Lancefield Park committee. I recently went to an AGM there and was super impressed. The volunteers have been incredibly resourceful, and they don't wait around for someone else to solve their problems. They get in and do it. And it's just a wonderful family-focused community who are deeply committed to improving their local facilities, and almost want to get a T-shirt that says, "I love Lancefield Park." So that brings me to this motion. The thing that my concerns about this motion is it feels like more procrastination dressed up as hope for the community, and I think we really need to be honest with the community about this, what this motion actually does. So first of all, it doesn't commit council to supporting Lancefield Park. It doesn't commit any funding. It doesn't commit council to becoming the committee of management, and it doesn't set a time frame for a decision. So in practical terms, all this is doing is bringing back another report, which I fear is actually not building a great outcome for the community. I don't think we need to kick the can down the road. I don't believe that we should delay action and create the impression that progress is being made when there's no real clear commitment attached to it. And this motion asks officers to undertake further investigations, expand the scope to surrounding land parcels, undertake additional consultation and prepare yet another report, but it doesn't actually commit council to any course of action. And so for me, it's just, is this actually the best use of officer resources at this point in time? Personally, I already have enough information for me to support Lancefield Park today. I don't need another report to feel confident in my decision making. I don't need to further interrogate land parcels to know that supporting a well-used community recreation reserve will deliver a positive outcome for local residents. I'd much rather see that funding go to practical projects that fund things on the ground. I also note that this motion does not provide certainty around timing. It doesn't specify when the report should come back, whether it's a priority piece of work, whether it should even be completed in the next financial year, and even this year at all, or this term of council. And that is one of the biggest things that's ongoing with Lancefield Park. There is no tangible outcomes or accountability that is being committed to. So instead, I'd love to see council working proactively with the state government to establish a clear pathway forward, provide certainty for the community. And the volunteers at Lancefield Park have already demonstrated their commitment. Some have been contributing for decades and continue to do the heavy lifting today. They deserve more than another report. So ultimately, this motion doesn't solve a problem or make a decision. It commissions just another report, broadens the scope of the investigation, and delays meaningful community outcome, which is what I really would love to see. So I will support the motion, but I would like us to actually commit, move forward, not kick the, report after report, procrastination. Let's actually do stuff. Let's fund stuff. Thank you. Great. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? No, we'll then go back. Oh, sorry. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I'll be speaking for the motion. I disagree with Councillor Kendall. I don't think we are procrastinating. I think it does require a lot of information, because at this stage we may have heard some opinions of the committee. They did endorse a master plan, and it's their master plan, that did include exploring future management options, but it hasn't been tested with the broader community. And I think until I'm in a position to be able to know a little bit more about the land around it, the different parcels they have, the struggles they may be having with funding, the conversations with the state government, why the money isn't flowing from state government. I think these are sort of things, and we have had it in briefings, and these questions have come up when we've spoken about where are we at with Lancefield Park. There have been more questions than answers. So to say that we support the Lancefield Park Committee today, that's great, but do we support them as the ongoing committee, or do we support that we should maybe be the land manager, or there should be a different model altogether? So I don't think we're in a position to decide upon that yet. Some individuals may have, but I have not certainly got enough information to be able to do that. And so I think it is important that we do gather more information, and it needs to be, I have enough time to be able to do this, to have discussions, but I think then we need to be in a position when we've had more discussions to actually take this to the broader community, because I think it's a community decision. It is the major recreational asset of Lancefield, and it has struggled because it hasn't been managed by council, and council has been contributing, but it really at the moment is a state government asset with a volunteer committee working on behalf of the state. So we do need to explore all the options, the finances, the surrounding land parcels, and I think the motion does do that, and I don't mind that it doesn't have a set time frame, because some of these things can take time, and it is important to take that time. And I think the staff know it's an issue. We will get feedback from the community. It'll take the time it takes, but with more information, we'll be able to be in a better position for the pros and cons of all the different options there are, because we'll know the risks, the current state of the assets, the finances that may be involved, and I think this future report is going to give us more information to make a more informed decision, and open, transparent, working with the community, and that's what we're all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Borthwick.
Thanks, Mayor Kendall. I'm going to speak in support of the motion before us. I think it's a sensible step in ensuring we fully understand the long-term implications ahead and making further decisions about future governance arrangements. Appreciate Mayor Kendall's report, and I think if we had a bucket of money, you know, we would all be there, but the reality of it is we need to think not just about it in isolation. We need to think about it alongside our financial, operational and asset considerations. We're really clear on where the community sits with this. I know that if we look at some of the other amazing sporting precincts around the Shire, there is some extraordinary things, and I'm not suggesting that this isn't another potential site for that. What we've heard is at different points over the term strong feedback from other parts of the community about wanting to feel better heard when we make these decisions and be better reflected in the decision making. And I think there is strong sentiment from the Lancefield community, because these spaces like Lancefield Park aren't just assets where you play football or what have you. They're places with strong local connections and used by a range of different groups. I know that I've spoken recently with some of the neighbours that live across the road, and they'd love to see a footpath, you know, simply from the estate that they live in to be able to get that. So it's those sorts of intricate details that sort of really form the backbone of how we can make this a statement piece for the Shire. So for me, it's important that any future report doesn't just look at how the park is managed, but it also reflects on how it is used and what the community values about it and what they expect into the future. That gives us a more complete picture and helps us ensure that decisions are not just operational, but they're sound, genuinely aligned with community expectation. And on that basis, I'm happy to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Borthwick. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll go back to, Councillor Bonanno.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just a quick one, but I think we'd all like to sit here and say we support, you know, Lancefield Park and coming over to council. That would be fantastic. But the reality is I can't sit here and let the state government get away with what they've done, and that is that underfunding and neglect really of Lancefield Park over the years. And the volunteers have done an amazing job. So thank you to them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see the numbers that come back. When we say we support it, that's what it's really about. It's about numbers. And I think it'll be an interesting budget discussion if we do end up taking it on with Councillor Young. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonanno. Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Young, right of reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I like to think that ordinarily my contributions here are not boring and bland, but listening to you speak before, Mayor, you made me feel like I had put up a boring and bland motion tonight, which is not usually my style, I guess. I think that I agree with pretty much every word you said there, because I too understand the sentiment of the community. I too have enough information for us to be progressing this, and I guess quite simply a matter of the moment I feel like I've got a majority of councillors in this room of the same view as yourself and what you've expressed tonight, then there might well be a different way in which this comes into the council chambers. So please, to other councillors, if you are sitting there quietly thinking that you agree with the Mayor's contribution tonight, let me know and we can work out a more exciting motion to put up that might give some direction for that group. So yeah, for now, we are information gathering for the purpose of providing other councillors who do need more info to bolster their view. Very happy that we're doing so. So good to see this motion up.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Councillors, I'll now call this item to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Great. Thank you. The motion is carried. We will keep moving. We're going to go to Section 16, but we have no notices of motion and rescission this evening. So we're going to go to urgent business, Section 17. CEO, is there urgent business?
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. There is one item related to the Kyneton Drill Hall that has been circulated previously to councillors for council to consider for admission to the meeting as urgent business. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. And councillors, I will be looking for a motion to admit this to urgent business, and Councillor Guthrie might have first. Councillor Guthrie.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I seek leave the council agrees to admit a matter as item 17.1, Kyneton Drill Hall, on the agenda as it relates to a matter which has arisen since the distribution of the agenda. Deferring the item until the next council meeting will have an effect on the matter, and the item involves a matter of urgency as determined by the Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Is there a seconder? Councillor Pearce.
Yes, thanks. I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Councillor Guthrie, I'll just check that your mic's off. Thank you. Okay. Seeing no opposition, this business has been admitted. It's carried. Thank you. So we're going to now move on to urgent business item 17.1, Kyneton Drill Hall. And does any councillor have a conflict of interest on this item? Councillor Bonanno.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to declare a conflict of interest in relation to item 17.1, Kyneton Drill Hall, which was the original home of the Australian Air Force Cadets 430 Macedon Ranger Squadron. The nature of my conflict of interest is general in nature, as my son is a member of the 430 Macedon Ranger Squadron.
Thank you, Councillor Bonanno. Noted. Now ask you to leave the chamber. Thank you. Thank you. I'll now be looking for a motion. Councillor Guthrie.
Thank you, Mayor Kendall. The motion is that Council 1 notes that the Department of Defence is divesting the Kyneton Training Depot, also known as Kyneton Drill Hall, located at 10 Market Street, Kyneton, Victoria, 3444, and that consultation is now open on the future use of the site. 2. Request the CEO to prepare a submission to the Department of Defence outlining the heritage value of the site and the desire that the heritage building be retained, and places this submission on the council website. Number 3, the council provide a copy of the submission to the Federal Minister for Defence, the Honourable Richard Miles MP, the Federal Member for Bendigo, Lisa Chesters MP, the State Members for Macedon, Mary Ann Thomas MP, the Returned and Services League, RSL, Victoria, and the National Trust. 4, notes that the Kyneton Training Depot is not listed on the Commonwealth Heritage List. 5, notes that the Kyneton Training Depot is designated under the Mollison Street precinct of the Macedon Rangers Planning Scheme and is protected by the Heritage Overlay H0162.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Councillor Pearce.
Thank you. I second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, the motion is carried. Would anyone like to speak to the resolution? Councillor Guthrie.
Thank you, Nick. Very briefly, as you know, I'm very passionate about heritage and maintaining heritage, both built and native. And this building is important. It's the birthplace of the Light Horse Brigade. And Councillor Banana mentioned the Air Cadets. Yes, my son was in it 25 plus years ago, and I used to spend every Friday night up there. So I'm very aware of the building, its architecture, it needs a bit of maintenance, unfortunately, and I'm very aware of that too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the Heritage report, because I want to see the building retained. And there's a lot of people in the Kyneton community who have all sorts of plans for its future uses.
Thank you, Councillor Guthrie. Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Pearce.
Thanks. Yes. Thanks for putting this urgent matter. It is an urgent matter because it involves the history in our community, our heritage, our community uses and our assets. So this point 2 is about preparing a submission, which will go on our website. And I would just wanted to encourage all the community, because we've already had community members contacting council about this, but please to actively reach out, whether that's individuals or groups, and let the department know what their desires are for the use, what this asset, it is an asset, means to the community. So I just wanted to highlight section 2. We'll put in a submission, but please love the community to do so as well.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Would anyone else like to speak? I might say some words. Thank you. So the Kyneton Drill Hall, which was formerly known as Monts and Quentin Barracks, which was actually built in 1903 and used a cadet training facility prior to its vacancy in 2020. So thank you so much to all of the emails and feedback from the community about the hall to date. Especially loved hearing about the history of uses, which has included acrobatic courses, little athletics, youth group, basketball tournaments, trampolining, gym use, and I did try and find, someone said even discos, so I was trying to find the reference there. Thanks also to the Department of Defence for coming to Kyneton Bowling Club last Thursday to host a community information session, divestment of defence sites in Victoria, and to the community members who attended. The overwhelming view of this feedback received there was that they want to keep the heritage use of the heritage of this building. So when I was thinking about this and proposing this urgent business in conjunction with the organisation, I was reflecting on the important significance of the Kyneton Drill Hall. It's something that locals often walk by every day in Kyneton due to its location. And it's a historic community asset with a strong emotional connection to Kyneton, and the community has a genuine opportunity to influence its future. On the Department of Defence's website, it says the site is dilapidated and has a significant structure damage. However, through the session and after inspecting the building, the key issues discussed were restumping and remediation of lead paint on the roof. So it seems like ensuring this building is safe and habitable is actually an achievable outcome for the community, which I think is exciting. The drill itself does not have a heritage overlay and isn't protected by a Commonwealth Heritage listing as noted in the motion, but only one site in Victoria as part of the divestment series is, and that's the RAF Williams in Point Cook. So the drill hall was mentioned in the Shire of Kyneton Conservation Heritage Study in 1990, which recommended its inclusion on the Register of the National Estate, which is now a defunct register. So Council obviously isn't in a position to take, this is not about taking on or discussing purchasing of any new asset. And just to note, the process of refusal is very different when it comes to federal assets versus state. So if it was a state, it actually would have come formally to Council as part of a process. But however, advocacy on the heritage value of the building is important for the community to see. And I also think it would make it amazing to see it retain its community use. So further information, as Councillor Pearce has said, to make a submission, search for Kyneton Training Depot on the Department of Defence's website. And my hope is that through this process, we can preserve the building's heritage significance while identifying a sustainable community use for future generations. So thank you to all councillors and council staff for supporting this resolution tonight. Thank you. Would anyone else like to say a few words? If not, we will keep moving to the final section of the agenda. Oh, sorry, we'll invite Councillor Bonanno back in. Thank you for this final section. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back, Councillor Bonanno. So the final item is confidential reports, and tonight we have no confidential items to discuss. So therefore, I'd like to thank everyone watching at home, councillors online as our first hybrid meeting, and everyone in the chamber, and close this meeting at 9:42 p.m. Thank you.